Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Cycling Podcast, where we discuss what happened in the week just gone and look ahead at the weeks ahead, obviously. But as always, I can't do this on my own. I'm joined by Patrick Blake of Outdo Cycling and Mr. Critical himself, Ewan Wilson. And today it's the last day of the World Championships. But yeah, what have you kind of thought of this? And Patrick, you're probably the first one we should go to, given the hat. And anyone listening on the podcast, please watch the episode on YouTube. I implore you to
Yeah,
do so.
we're not going to give anything away. You will have to just come and watch a video to see what I'm wearing. I thought I had a really good time. I didn't watch the women's race today. I watched the start of the under 23 and then I'm now some other place in the UK. Mysteriousness. And yeah, I had a great time, honestly. The different locations, the TTs in Stirling were really fun. I really liked the finish up there. Although you weren't allowed in the last 200 meters because of, I don't know, UCI Karens on patrol just deciding to deny fun in the last 200 meters. I'm not sure if you needed to buy access, but not gonna lie, that kind of sucked. And yeah, and then everyone was scrambling on this one monument to try and get a view of Remco of a finish. It was really hilarious. And then somebody tried to jump over a barrier, and the UCI Karens were not happy about that either. There were plenty of those about this week. Honestly, they were kind of a bit. They were going apeshit. Pardon my French, but yeah, they were going mental. But overall, great time. I thought that it was a real good week of racing. And yeah, the multidiscipline stuff, I love the mountain biking. I thought that was real fun too. Actually kind of inspired to go get my mountain bike out now. Shocker. As a roadie, that's definitely a big plunge for me. But yeah, what about you? Did you enjoy it? I thought it was good overall.
I felt inspired to get my artistic bike out and to dance on the handlebars. Also, cycle ball. I've never seen a full match of cycle ball before, but switched on and watched a little bit of that. It's probably the one and only time it'll get national television coverage. So I guess this has been quite a successful week in putting those smaller events on the map, particularly like the trials events, where they just seem to like jump around a small, maybe 20 meters squared course with rocks and blocks everywhere. It was quite interesting. But in terms of the road events, which is what we mainly cover in our remit, yeah, I mean, the time trial events was super interesting. I didn't love the course, to be honest. It felt a little bit it didn't have that world championship atmosphere. I don't think watching on TV, at least, maybe in the ground it was different, but watching on TV, it felt more like a sort of a national championships or like even like a local level British time trial instead of it being a world championship event where there's a rainbow jersey on the line. The women's race, though, that just happened early today on the day of recording was I thought it was really good. It was different to the men's race. It felt like inevitable that Kopecky had a really good shot at winning. And then when Kopecky went, well, that was it done. But like there were parts of the race where you thought maybe the balance power was moving away. The Schweinberger, for instance, had a real great coming of age ride. Lizzie Deignan out of nowhere sort of burst into the top group of favorites. So it really was an interesting race, probably until that final 6K.
That's very fair from both of you. My kind of thing, I thought the World Championships were great, as you said as well, giving a lot more exposure to smaller events. Like, okay, I love the Track World Championships. I would have watched that any time of the year. I would not have watched the mountain biking. I watched the Pidcock and hoping that Mathieu van der Poel would do something. But first lap or whatever, crashing out was a bit of a shame. The only thing with this is I feel like with having them all bunched up like this, I agree with you, and the smaller events definitely benefit from it. But I feel like the bigger events, some of the shine was taken away because it's like mountain bike world champion, yeah, Pidcock wins, and then now it's the under 23, and now it's the women. So it felt like it was just like a conveyor belt of rainbow jerseys, and that special moment of winning a world championships was kind of overshadowed by, there's another one coming. Oh, there's another one coming. And people will say, yeah, it's the same with the Olympics, but the Olympics is something unique. It's every 4 years. This is a world championships.
Yeah, I can get on board with that opinion. It'd feel like a fleeting sort of celebration, like, oh, look here, look there. It was kind of hard to keep track of even what was even happening on a day-to-day basis. If you were just looking at road events, if you were also trying to get the other events into your calendar, like something had to give in your calendar. I know I was on a logistical nightmare for the last week or so. It has been quite tough to try and keep everything sort of afloat. It's like been like spinning plates, but I think that this sort of Super World Champs, is it a once every 4 year thing that they're planning on doing? So it's like an Olympic style thing, which I do kind of like. So it will be sort of more of a special occasion, but I did find it a bit odd that maybe the men's elite road race was the first thing that sort of came around, because it was like bang, big event, and then it's like psh, and then everything after that maybe people didn't care about as much. Maybe it might have been better to put the men's elite in the place of a women's event, like just because then it keeps the intrigue going. And I don't know, is that a valid opinion? Would it have made more sense to have a women's race first?
I agree. I feel like the schedule that they usually go with, so having the time trial before the road race, I think works really well. Particularly having like the pinnacle sort of men's and women's road racing as the final weekend event. I think that would have been great. Maybe it was a matter of closing the roads during the week in Glasgow City Centre and having all of those fans there, like in terms of the logistics of it all, because most of the road racing happened on the Saturday and the Sunday, the first Saturday and Sunday. Then on the second Saturday and Sunday, there wasn't much going on during the week, apart from the mixed race relay. And also Monday was a bank holiday in Scotland. So it might have been a logistical thing, but I definitely feel like you should have had the time trial, then the road race, then maybe put the relay in between just to sort of keep the momentum going.
I mean, we are going to do Ride of the Week, but we might as well start with what has been your moment of this Super World Championships. I think we don't even need to ask Patrick. Yeah, is there anything that really stands out? Obviously, Match of Evenepoel, I thought that was iconic. I think we all three of us think that was an insane moment, but is there anything else that really stands out as a big, big moment?
That's a really good question. I did really enjoy Lizzie Dignan's sort of, I don't want to call it return, but it felt like a really sort of like a bit of a blast from the past. I really enjoyed that. I know that's also kind of like a biased Yorkshire opinion though, now that I think about it. But I think that also to be under 23 TT, I thought that Malaysia's win was a bit of an upset, beating Segart. That was sort of an unpredictable one. I thought that was quite a good one. Just to kind of, from an underdog perspective, I enjoyed that from a kind of like rooting for him. I think that was a fun one, but honestly, there's been so much to try and keep track of. I thought the short track, Sam Gaze getting that win, that was quite very entertaining, I can tell you, because I was there in person. That was insane. Like, the short track is like a crit, but uphill, gravel, off-road, it was mental. And I reckon we should just have gravel crits now. I reckon that's the format to go with now. They're sketchy enough as they are. But yeah, lots of things to pick apart from this week. I think those are just a couple of things which I enjoyed.
And maybe having sort of like Crit World Championships are now going to be more in vogue given the city centre circuit of Glasgow that was used during the road events. Maybe that's going to make future Worlds routes a little bit more sort of windy. But a lot of the riders did complain. But I mean, for me, from an emotional level, probably, I mean, Katie Archibald winning on the track in the team pursuit, it's been a really difficult past sort of 12 months, year for her, and to bounce back and to win a gold medal in Glasgow, it means an awful lot. Also, in terms of actually having a Scottish rider win in Scotland, there weren't that many Scottish cyclists here at the Worlds. It felt like it was fleeting to support home riders because there weren't that many Scottish athletes, but Katie Archibald really rose to the occasion. Elsewhere, Axel Laurence winning the under-23 road race. Following what has been another sort of tumultuous 12 months, he was fantastic this time last year at Britannia Classic, being right up there in the sprint. He was going to be sort of he then signed a long contract with the Paris Cycling Club. Sorry, Scott, I had to.
Here we go.
but he was going to be their big sprinting project with Mark Cavendish. So he was their big upcoming French talent. He was really, really promising. Then he got dumped last minute when the team fell through, and sort of every World Tour team. Well, even Cavendish was finding it hard to find a team, let alone Axel Laurence. He got picked up by the Alpecin Koenig dev team, and he's been racing sort of junior races all year, waiting for that big race to come. And it feels like we've almost forgotten about Axel Laurence. But here in the World Championships, he just sort of rose to the occasion. Also, Michal Swiatek was really, really good in that race as well.
Yeah, literally that podium. I can't wait 5 years from now or whatever. Holy moly. Like, Laurence, Antonio Morgado, and Swiatek. Like, Swiatek was insanely good. And I'm like, just when you got, like, you know, the Sagan era ending, there's like this new Slovakian talent just to kind of get behind. I love that. How there's just like, as one fades, one comes into it. That's just, I can't wait to sort of track Sverchek over the next kind of couple of years, because I think that, this has been like a neo-pro year, but next year, honestly, watch out for him, because I think that he's going to be absolutely incredible. Can't wait.
Yeah, also just correction, Martin Sverchek, not Michael Sverchek.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, that was me. That was me who made the mistake.
Sorry.
Yeah, but we might as well talk about Remco Evenepoel as well. We haven't really mentioned him winning the World Championships time trial in quite an emphatic fashion, beating Ghana and Josh Tarling. We'll get on to Tarling, but Remco Evenepoel doing something he's been likened to Eddy Merckx so many times that it's crazy. Only 23 years old. He's accomplished something now that Eddy Merckx has never done, winning the World Time Trial Championships, because it never existed when he was a pro. But does this add something to, lift him up in the stages of cycling, and can we still put him in that box of the accomplishments of Eddy Merckx in the modern era? And I'm going for this. Yeah, as Ewan mentioned this as well, he's the first rider to win kind of we couldn't think of it, win the road race title, and then the next year win the time trial title. Okay, it's not a double, but it's very close.
Yeah, it's almost as close as you're going to get, and it's more impressive maybe because it's across two separate disciplines. With it being sort of a hilly road race last year, and this year with it being a mostly flat TT. There was a climb at the end, but Evenepoel was even up on Pippo Ganna before the climb to Stirling Castle. So for me, it's definitely putting Remco up there. Maybe not Eddy Merckx category, just because we haven't seen what he's capable of at a Tour de France. I think once we get that answer, we might be able to have those discussions. But he's definitely setting himself apart from Pogacar at the moment, who I think is probably the other rider in contention to be like the Eddy Merckx of this generation, because Pogacar doesn't have a World Championship title, neither does he have an World Championship individual time trial champion. And I think what Evenepoel has done here is sort of complete another one of those sort of boxes on his tick list, which he's definitely been doing over the past sort of 2 seasons, winning monuments, winning UCI World Tour stage races at the highest level, a Grand Tour victory, national championships on the road, and now the World Championships on the road and the time trial discipline. It's super polyvalent. It's definitely showing a maturing of talent and age by Remco Evenepoel.
And there's only a few riders probably in the pro peloton who could do the same. Just to name riders off the top of my head, Pogacar, as you said, Ewan, probably could do something if the course suited him, especially in the TT, if it was a bit hillier. I think he could definitely win a road race and a TT. Wout van Aert, of course, is another one who could do that. But outside of them, I'm really struggling to think of somebody who would win a road race and a TT world title in the current peloton. I reckon there's only those 3, unless I'm Ganna, maybe, if a road course really suited him. But you're really clutching at straws as to riders who could really complete something like this. And Remco's the only one in the peloton to have done it. So it does really set him apart from the rest of the field, and it does give him an edge over a Pogacar and stuff, because Remco is faster than Pogacar over most TT courses. I mean, we've seen if they head uphill, then Jonas might certainly decide to turn up and come and take the title instead. So I think that Remco's really forged out a niche which he is really good at, which is that he is a Grand Tour rider, stage racer, but absolute killer TT. He is, without a doubt, top 3 on any course. Put him in there, he's a contender for the win, and there's not many riders who you can say are on that same mantra.
Also, just thinking in terms of his palmares, he's been national champion of Belgium, he's been European champion as well back in 2019, and now he's world champion by the age of 23, and it's a competitive national championships in Belgium. I don't know if we've had anybody else do that. I know the European championships took a pause for quite a few years, but I don't think we've had someone. Not like Pippo Ganna, I don't think, has even won the Europeans. So it is a truly unique feat that Evenepoel has done here in winning all of those by the age of 23, and also looking towards the road race. He's now got the road racing title of Belgium. He's been the road world champion. He also came second in the Continental Championships back in 2021, only losing out to Sonny Colbrelli. So Evenepoel really does have his talent of one-day racing, whether that's a one-day race time trial in a national championship or a European or world championship, and also in these classics, like we spoke about with Liège-Bastogne-Liège, also Classic of San Sebastian. Apart from the world championships we had last week, the Belgian road championships last year won by Tim Merlier, and Banche, which he went to as sort of a promo for the Rainbow Jersey last year. He, in terms of the past 2 seasons, he's won all of those races. That is a phenomenal record. And I think that just goes to show that Remco really is a rider who can rise to the occasion. and deliver.
I'm gonna still clutch to this this Eddie Merckx, because it's been him and Eddie Merckx have been so synonymous over the years. Just because he's Belgian, he's winning a lot. But Eddie Merckx actually won his first World Championships. He won 3 in total on the road, obviously, because the time trial didn't exist, when he was 23, I believe. So same age, or just 22. So similar. It's similar kind of trajectory. He was 24 when he won his first Tour de France. Remco is going to be 24 next year when he goes to his first Tour de France. So he's kind of still is on the track of doing this. And in terms of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, he was a lot older than Remco when he won his first one. He was actually 24 when he won his first one, and he's already won 2 of them. So in some categories, he's actually ahead of the GOAT of the sport.
And it wouldn't surprise me, given Quick Step's lackluster spring classics this season, if Remco was sent to Flanders next year and even managed to win that solo with not on a climb, but like a preemptive move on a flat section, say before like a Ardèche or something like that. If he went solo long, like he could win that as well. But an Il Lombardia as well. But I'd probably say like a Roubaix and a San Remo, probably not likely to happen. But yeah, like he is so comparable to Merckx, and like Ewan said, well, it's just like a test of time. Like the results will continue to keep flowing for Evenepoel so long as nothing goes wrong, and it's just a matter of how far can he go, because he is such a good one-day racer. And the one thing which I love about him is that him and Pogacar and Van der Poel are very akin to this, is that they have this very still like pure racing style where they go for quite long, audacious moves, and it's not calculated, which is what the pro pelotons become more and more akin to. And I just love how they still hold on to this like pure grit, cyclismo determination to make racing entertaining. And from a fan's perspective, I love that he still goes long in races and makes them exciting from far out. I think that he is really good at doing that, and that's arguably one of his strengths is his aeroness, is that it's just so hard to follow him, and that's why he's so good at TTs too. He's the whole package, and I reckon Merckx will be like, oh god, all my records are getting ticked off slowly, one by one. Cavs equaled this, and what's next to fall for Merckx, basically.
I mean, the one thing that's missing now is an Olympic medal, really.
And
Tour de France. He has a Grand Tour.
Yeah. He also
it's
won
proving
Tour of
himself
Denmark
at the Tour de France. But then also an Olympic medal as well. I feel like that's necessary to really get into that sort of legend category. I mean, he probably will be, but I feel like an Olympic medal would be like the full house of competitions, because he's got the monument, all those different titles that we spoke about as well.
I don't think, did Eddie Merckx actually win an Olympic gold? I feel like he didn't.
He didn't. I've got his Wikipedia page up right here.
Yeah, I'm frantically trying as well.
But
his son did a bronze.
Yeah, the Olympic road race, it does throw up some strange results if you look back at the history books. But what Evenepoel does have is the opportunity to get an Olympic medal in the time trial in Paris, in particular next year. If Ghana goes for the track again and then misses the mark in the road racing side of it, then Evenepoel could be in a really good position to win that Olympic title. Especially coming out of the Tour de France, the Olympics will be in a similar position to the Worlds this year, or a week earlier probably. I think he's definitely got a good shot at winning gold next year.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to win the Tour? That's the last point. Do you think he's going to win? Well, he's matched or beaten some of Eddie Merckx's achievements at this relative similar age. Yes, cycling's very different now, which I think is quite impressive, that he's still managed to beat some of Eddie Merckx's achievements by the same age. But do you think he's going to come anywhere near, the whole of Grand Tours like Eddie Merckx? He has one, like you said, but is he going to get the Tour?
I think he will.
Ooh.
You think he's going to get 5 or just win one?
No, I don't think he'll get 5. I reckon he'll get 1 or 2. I just think that there's still more to come from Grand Tour performances from Remco. I think he would have won the Giro this year, barring COVID, personally. I think that's not an especially hot take, to be honest with you. I think it would have been, pretty likely that he was going to, if he didn't have COVID, put more time in that second TT into a Roglic. Could he have held on to Roglic in most of those climbs, if not all of them? Yeah, probably. And so I think Remco could have won the Giro. So hypothetically, yes, he could do that again. Can he win the Tour? we haven't necessarily seen him up against a Pogačar and a Jonas in like full flight. So I think that's still like an unknown. It's very possible that he could be competitive against them. We just don't know. We're presuming that he won't be because of the level of Pogačar and Jonas. That's kind of what I feel people like the general public and sort of feeling is that our Remco's not quite on a climbing level, but we just don't know because we haven't seen it. So I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think he will win a Tour. I'm not sure whether it'll be next year. I think that there's still unknown quantities in terms of Ineos, all that's still going on, that rumour and the support around him, but I reckon he could do it, honestly. I reckon he really could.
That rumour has a new chapter. Alberto Contador said on Spanish television that Remco had signed for Ineos.
What?
Yeah, but this is Alberto Contador. Why is he the man who's told
Yeah,
him?
exactly.
Why is it not Patrick Evenepoel or someone else? Anyways, the question in hand. I don't think he'll win next year. I think he could win a Tour de France. I just don't think it's going to be like 4 or 5. I think if he wins a Tour de France, it might be 1 or 2. I just think from what we've seen, the thing is Pogačar's only a year and a half older than him. Not even a year and a half, a year and 4 months older than him.
Pogačar doesn't matter. It's Vingegaard who's going to win the next 8 years. So.
Vingegaard's only 2 years older than Evenepoel.
The next 8 years, you can write it off, guys. It's Danish. The Danish flag, Danish anthem.
But okay, the thing is,
it's like no.
But in that case, because Pogačar and Vingegaard are the 2 best riders at the Tour de France, they have been over the past 3 editions.
Hands down, yeah.
Yeah, and then Pogačar won the 2020 edition. Evenepoel has not beaten Pogačar at a stage race yet, and like I feel like before, like we've seen them, especially the past 2 Tours de France from Vingegaard and Pogačar themselves. So on the build-up, they look fantastic in terms of the stage racing performance, the stage racing performances that they give. I don't feel like we've seen Evenepoel really go into a stage race over the past couple of years and give a completely dominant performance. He came close in the UAE Tour this year, but he didn't win the final mountain stage. Adam Yates did. Even sort of this year and at Catalonia, it was close between him and Pogačar, but even if it was close between him and Roglic, rather. If Evenepoel were to have won that race, it would have only been a matter of maybe a couple of seconds to Roglic, whereas Vingegaard won Dauphiné by 3 minutes. Pogačar won Paris-Nice by maybe 2 minutes and won 3 stages along the way. This year, looking back at last year, and then the way Pogačar won Tirreno Adriatico and Vingegaard's fantastic ride at the Dauphiné last year, I feel like we've seen more on the build-up to Grand Tours from Pogačar and Vingegaard than Evenepoel. But then Evenepoel really gives these stellar one-day racing results at a national championships, at a classic that maybe Vingegaard doesn't get, for instance. We don't see anything in the classics from Vingegaard.
Yeah, he's not even going to the Tour of Denmark this year, or he didn't go to the Nationals either, and didn't go to the World Championships either to represent Denmark. Yeah, I agree. Like
it's lame, Jonas.
It would have been good to see him at the Worlds TT. Who knows what he could have done based on the Tour one. But as Ewan said, a Tour TT is very different to a one-day TT, etc. But
for instance, Pogačar came sort of like 20.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Patrick, you did the film of Pogačar getting past on Ghana on the final climb.
Yeah. Legit, somebody said, "Oh, Pogačar's coming," and I was like, "Sweet!" So I started cheering Pogačar, and then Ganna came, and I was like, "Hang on, he's been gapped. He's been fully spat by Ganna." I was like, "Oh no!" It's a good point. One day TT performances are very different to doing them on stage 16.
We have a brilliant. We've talked about this before, liking modern rider to Eddy Merckx, and that was of course Tadej Pogačar. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to listen on that discussion if you're new here on the podcast. But nevertheless, now we're getting to one of our favorite topics, and I must admit I was a big fan of this rider, and then Ewan made me turn against him a bit. Wout van Aert. Missed the product placement during childbirth or first picture of his child. Yeah, I'm never going to let that go anymore. And people have commented about it, and I'm like, whatever. You have a big platform. Use it to something good. Show that you care about other people, like Tadej Pogačar. Sorry, this is just a completely other rant. Yeah, by the way, check out Tadej Pogačar's Instagram, where he's donating, depending on who takes a picture with him, on the 23rd in Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia, to raise money for for flood damages that have happened in Slovenia, which I think is absolutely commendable. I have never seen a pro cyclist do something as extraordinary as that.
On the other hand, looking towards Wout van Aert posted something the other day, and it was I think it was him on a private jet.
Well, there we go.
We could be done for slander. It was him on what looked like a private jet, drinking from a can of Red Bull, and he like tagged the Red Bull like at Red Bull, and he was wearing like a Red Bull hat. And it's like, wow, so happy these World Championships are over. I don't know, it's just a bit cringe. It's just too in your face.
Yeah,
I'm all
okay.
here for capitalism, but this is just too much.
This
Got
isn't
fully
all.
thrashed.
We know that we're like most of us are Matthew Van der Poel fans as well. He is probably a great person, blah blah blah. This isn't about just a complete slander of his character, but I still think it was a
He's
weird
got to get
moment.
coin. He's got to make that money, you know.
Yeah. But like,
I don't blame
Tadagacha,
him. It's a doggy dog world out there.
yeah, this is not you and off camera,
Anyway.
by the way. The point is, he didn't win the World Championships this year in either the road race or the time trial. He is such a unique rider. We've said this so many times. He's got so many stage wins in the Tour de France. Absolutely talented rider. But are we ever going to see him where he's of course been a world champion before on the cyclocross numerous of times, but is he going to ever be a world champion on the road in either the road race or the time trial?
Yes. I think he will be. In my opinion, it's only kind of a matter of time. Like, come on, a guy of this quality can't go to the end of his career without winning it, right? Like, he's just, he is good. Like, he can climb, he can sprint, he can time trial. He's got all the qualities of a rider who should win a world championships. I mean, heck, he came second at Imola. Like, he can do it all. And maybe that's his downfall. I don't know whether he gets stuck between strategies or, Belgium maybe being too strong and overly confident, like kind of like the Dutch today in the women's race. Maybe they get a bit too confident in their abilities. Remco's kind of throwing a spanner in the works. I think that he should be winning at World Championships. I think a lot of the courses get designed around puncher sort of esque riders because those are the generally kind of cool riders to have in a World Champs jersey. So I think that there'll be lots of courses. Like I remember seeing yesterday, the course for Zurich next year contains like a few kilometer climb at like 4% or so. And I think that Wout could certainly do something well there. I think the TT is going to be a harder thing to crack personally, considering what we've just seen from an Evenepoel, a Ganna, and also like the rising Tarling as well. I think we're getting onto later, but I think Wout's best shot is in the road race, personally. I'm not sure when that'll be, but I believe that he can win it.
Yeah, similarly, I feel like it's a matter of time. Like, he is probably one of the best all-round riders in the world, but he is turning 29 this September, and he's been the top of the world now for 4 world championships. In Imola, then you had the Leuven ones, then you had ones last year and this one. Yes, he's got 2 silver medals, but he's still not won any of those 4 routes that should be sort of specially tailored to him. And in the time trial as well, we've had different routes. We have flat ones, we've had hilly ones, and he still hasn't got a world championship title. What is going to change within the next maybe 4 or 5 years of his career that's going to favor him more than other riders? Mathieu van der Poel, for instance, is, I think, a year younger than Wout van Aert. We've also got sort of Evenepoel riding for the same national team as him, and Evenepoel's only getting better and better with time. He's still got Pogacar in there, maybe sort of guys coming through the ranks as well who could threaten. Maybe Arnaud Delis within the Belgian team as well could really take more attention away from Wout van Aert, especially given that Arnaud Delis looking like a really good sort of one-day racer, maybe for like the Kigali course, for instance, where you have that Mur de Kigali or whatever it's called, which is going to be a cobble climb in the center of the Rwandan capital. Just looking at the historical patterns, I think it's fair to sort of say, yes, it should happen, because it's logical to say it should because he has a skill set, but he hasn't got one yet. What is going to change? Like, Cancellara never won a road world championship title, and he probably should have. Hakim Rodriguez never won a Grand Tour, and he probably should have.
Oh, my heart is still hurting from that. Don't talk about that Rodriguez.
Yeah, but okay. But this is
Sean Kelly never won Ronde van Vlaanderen and the world.
Exactly. What other ones can we think of?
Matty Berschel. Sad times.
Come on, be real. Greg van Avermaet never. I don't think he's quite on that level. But like, for instance, like there are plenty of riders who probably should
have everywhere here.
No, but he also won an Olympic gold in the Olympic road race. So I feel like that's probably a bigger achievement than winning a rainbow jersey once.
Is it?
You have it for 4 years. It's the Olympics. I feel like that chance.
Yeah, but you don't get a jersey though. You don't.
You have the little gold stripe.
Yeah,
we call them golden Greg.
I would love a jersey. Give them a jersey.
A golden helmet.
Yeah, but give them a jersey. I want to see.
It's golden Greg.
Exactly.
He will forever be golden Greg.
Yeah,
it's immortal.
Vinokurov as well, winning that Olympic title. That's what he's remembered for.
Yeah, I think you're right with time is not on his side. But like, was it Imola? Yeah, Imola, where he almost did the double. Like, he's the
But he didn't.
closest. No, but he's the closest that we've had to a double. Like 2 second places. Never
Yeah.
been done, the double, ever.
Tom de Milan came close in 2018 as well. He finished on the podium in the TT and was fourth place in the road race. It was close, and he was in.
So
In terms
Wout
of actual,
was closer.
in terms of physical distance, Tom de Milan was closer because he was in the winning group. There you go.
Technicality.
Go to Tom de Milan, but
he's very much in the UN protected riders club. I think he's the head of that club.
Historically, yeah, maybe. I feel like Stephen Kung not winning a world championships. Like I feel like it should have happened by now, but it just hasn't. I feel like Wout might go down not having that. Wout needs to try really hard to win a European Championship title.
What happened with the Stephans? That was so sad. And Patrick, we don't know if you were aware of this, but we were talking about this on stream. There was this random camera angle where the riders would come off the line and then get a camera shoved in their face. Rowan Dennis had just had a mechanical crashed. And then he got the camera in the face, so he punched it. And then there was Leonard Kemner, who was unfortunate. He actually threw up right after the race, and he kind of pushed the camera away. But I thought that was very invasive.
Speaking of vomit, there were 2 instances of vomit cam this week.
Great.
Axel Laurence, straight after winning the under 23 World Championship title, like straight away, he finds his parents. And he just like collapses over the bars and just vomits everywhere on the floor. And the camera stayed on him. Like they didn't cut away. I've read this thing about this like editing philosophy that like in some places, I know like in France they're quite big on this, is that like you shouldn't cut away from things. Like cutting away from brutality is censorship. But maybe I'm just a bit soft here. But like showing Axel Laurent's vomit on camera, there are plenty of people who feel like if they see someone vomit on camera, they want to vomit themselves. It just felt a bit much, you know.
I'd rather wanted to see the protesters cementing themselves to the pavement.
But that felt like censorship.
Yeah, that was censorship.
Yeah. It wouldn't have lasted long if they were up with me on the Crow Road, I'll tell you.
But anyways, moving on. Mountain bike. You saw the rider himself, Patrick, in the flesh. We had Tom Pidcock absolutely dominate the mountain bike racing. I think he started 5th row as well, and still managed to win, almost getting dragged back.
A kerfuffle.
Yeah, by Sam Gaze, the New Zealand rider. Mathieu van der Poel crashing out on the first lap, and Schurter, the 10-time world champion, even though the commentary, they were saying he doesn't win a lot. I was like, you just said he's a 10-time world champion. But nevertheless, yeah, phenomenal achievement. He didn't go to the road race, unfortunately. My question here is he the best all-round British rider now? Insanely good mountain biker, insanely good cyclocross rider. He's won Alpe d'Huez stage on the road as well. Strade Bianchi this year as well, not to forget.
In terms of British riders, he is hands down the most kind of well-rounded, if you want to call it that, just because I don't ever remember a Geraint Thomas or Chris Froome taking to a mountain biking race or a cyclocross race like that, to be honest.
But Geraint Thomas is an Olympic track champion as well as
Wiggins.
I don't know, because Pidcock's got that extra. He's got the road, mountain bike, and cyclocross. There's 3 disciplines. That's trumping road and track. I think that Pidcock at the moment is probably the most well-rounded British rider. I don't think that's a especially kind of like outlandish thing to be saying. I think that it's interesting though, because we saw him going for GC at the Tour this year rather successfully for the first 12 days, say, or whatever. Especially like Grand Colombier, that was a really good performance as well. And then, like he's a good one-day racer. We've seen him do well in plenty of one-day races so far this year. And then, cyclocross and mountain bike, it's almost a bit unbelievable in a way. Like, I don't want to just be like, being like, oh, wow, look how amazing it is. It's not seen very regularly in the peloton, this level of success over multiple disciplines. We have seen Wout and Mathieu especially, he does dabble in mountain bike as well. But yeah, it's not a very frequent thing. So it's quite impressive.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like a modern phenomenon now to have like these guys who are world destroyers at cyclocross and mountain biking also doing road racing. We've had like Jakob Fuglsang and other people who've done mountain biking and then transition, but I don't think they were ever really like destroyers then come
Cadel
to...
Evans, I think that's a good. He was insane
Sagan.
at mountain biking.
Yeah, Sagan as well.
Yeah.
But definitely in terms of British races, he has to be the number one. There's so many examples of British track riders then doing the road. Even now, I mean, Ethan Vernon for Israel Premier Tech. Oh, well, he just moved to Israel Premier Tech from Soudal Quickstep.
Oh, did he actually?
Jumped the gun there. Yeah, he did.
Ah, yeah, he won a world championships as well, the elimination race.
Mhm.
That was really good racing by him. He crashed and still won the race. Quite impressive.
And he was in the mixed race relay as well in the same week on the road.
We have to talk about that. Oh, Ethan Vernon, what are you doing?
But like there are plenty of examples there with Wiggins and Thomas. I think it depends like what your like. Bradley Wiggins is the most decorated British Olympian based on the amount of medals that he'd won on the track, and then as well with his individual time trial glory and the road in 2012. I don't know whether that sets him apart, but in terms of like being on the 3 different disciplines, being a world champion of 2 of them, an Olympic champion of 1 of them, and also being a Grand Tour stage winner on the road, it is a super unique feat. Only really Van der Poel can rival that. It is a shame almost that Pidcock is riding at the same era of Van der Poel and Van Aert in the cyclocross. Maybe because he's like a little bit younger, he'll get more years on his own. But then Thibaut Nace is coming through as well. But like they are like generational talents in Wout van Aert. And Van der Poel in particular, because he does the mountain biking as well.
Might do the track next year. And what did you say? The insane skills of the artistic cycling as well.
Yeah, I want to see Van der Poel like doing
every event,
handlebar and cycle ball. I want to see him as a goalie.
Him versus him, the Netherlands versus Belgium, with Wout van Aert.
Remco was a not like a football player as a kid, so I feel like cycle ball is a natural progression for him in terms of it being like just like football but on a bike.
I mean, in terms of Pidcock, how do you see his future career? Because is he just content with doing this kind of mountain bike cyclocross on a bit of road, and then that's just him for the rest of his career?
Yeah, I just feel like something has to give. I feel like you can do 2 things. It's kind of like the age-old saying with lots of things where it's like, oh, there are 3 good things and you have to pick 2 of them or whatever. And I think that Pidcock's sort of in that, where if he wants to be successful on the road, then does he have to give up success in other areas, basically, is my point. Does he want to win the Tour? He was up there in GC. That's clearly some kind of aspiration, but does that come at the cost of doing well in other races?
Yeah, I feel like this is a debate we've had for a while in terms of what does the future look like for Pidcock, because I guess it's natural to compare him with Van der Poel and Van Aert, given that they share so much time together in the fields of Belgium during the winter, and then Van der Poel in particular with the mountain bike focus as well. I don't know, I just don't feel like Pidcock is quite there yet in terms of his road cycling, but I think that estimate needs to be improved the most. That's also probably the biggest moneymaker, I would say, as well, rather than cyclocross and the mountain biking. So, but then why does this rider type go forward? Is it more these classics and one-day racing? Is it more the stage racing? You probably could do both, but he looked good at Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and he won Strada Bianca this year, so maybe it's more being a Mathieu van der Poel type in terms of focusing on the classics and appearing at the Tour de France and being carte blanche. But then if he is the future of Ineos Grenadiers, then he might be funneled into being a sort of a GC guy. Maybe next year he does like a Voyager Discovery. Pidcock, if you look at his like Palmares and Pro Cycling Stats profile, he has not done many week-long stage races. That's a real sort of gap in his knowledge, which is maybe why when it comes to Grand Tours, he does a good first week and then crumbles into the end of the second week and the third week. Maybe what Pidcock needs to do is sort of do more 1 week long stage races to build him up for a Grand Tour, so he has a more reliable Tour de France GC performance. Sending him to Paris-Nice or to Tirreno, one of these races, could also be great practice. I mean, he did Tirreno this year, crashed, but it could be great practice for the Spring Classics and also for his Grand Tour ambitions. I think we definitely need more evidence of GC performances there before we can say Grand Tour top 10 is in the bag for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, him, Mathieu van der Poel, and Wout van Aert have all won Strade Bianche and World Cyclocross Champions. I think that's quite funny. But speaking of Ineos Grenadiers' future, Josh Tarling, 19 years old, going to the under 23 level, did the Remco did the Remco again by finishing third. Well, finishing on the podium 1 place lower than what Remco did back in Yorkshire. But yeah, were you guys impressed by the young Tarling? He obviously won the senior nationals as well, and seems like a really nice guy off the bike as well.
I was very impressed. And I would like to point out that in our preview bit, I think I said that Tarling was going to finish third.
This is true. I can confirm. I edited the episode. This is a verified fact.
And there we go.
When I saw it, because I didn't know he'd finished third, so when I saw the podium, I was like, "Oh!" My first instinct was I was right.
There's the other two on your podium.
Okay. If I recall, you said Ganna would win,
I
but
did.
I looked past that because he finished second, and Tarling coming third was a good pick.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. I was super impressed. I couldn't believe it. 19 years old. He's a teenager. He's on the podium. Like, it's insane.
He's very tall as well. I can confirm standing next to him.
The sign was sort of there at, I think it was like Tour of Wallonie. He finished close to Ganna. And do you reckon he's going to be more dominant than Ganna in TTs in the future?
I don't know. What is this style? Is he just a pure time trialist? Like, what can he do elsewhere? Because we haven't seen much of him in terms of his road racing. He rode Roubaix this year, as did Ganna, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know Tarling enough as a sort of rider outside of these time trials, but it has also at the same time been a while since we've had one of these guys that can just smash the time trials. I feel like it's a thing of the 2000s, 2010s to have these guys. I know Victor Campenard said a couple of years back that you can't just be a pure time trialist anymore. You have to be able to do other things. Maybe Tarling is the new sort of cracked time trial super god of the next 5-6 years, but he is only 19. Give him some time.
Yeah, problem is Remco's there as well, as you guys said. But we might as well move on. And stepping away from the World Championships, talked a lot about that. We'll get into Rider of the Week. Well, we'll probably all have something with the Worlds, but actually, no, sorry, scratch that. You guys had something you wanted to bring up in the Women's World Time Trial Championships as well. And I'll just hand it over to you, because you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, well, there was an incident in the women's individual time trial event on Thursday that sort of stirred up quite a strong debate online regarding Marlen Reusser, who came into the women's time trial on Thursday as the, I think we can say outstanding favourite, following a stage win at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift in Po. Was that 2 weeks ago now, where she won the final TT there. She's also the reigning European champion and was looking on great form, has been looking great throughout this year. A couple of days beforehand in the mixed race relay for Switzerland, she actually came down in a crash on one of these awkward corners during that event. She got back up, and Switzerland did end up getting the gold medal, but it did feel for like a bit of a sort of mental wobble moment. However, coming into Thursday's individual time trialing event, it seemed like things weren't really going her way. At the first time check of the day, she was down in 4th position, evidently off the pace set by Chloe Dygert, the American who made her big comeback into the international scene in Europe, at least in the time trialing discipline. And for Reusser, the cameras cut to her. She sat back up into her normal handlebars, shook the head, and about 100 or so meters later, got off the bike, sat on the ground, and she DNF'd the race. Afterwards, she cited mental exhaustion with a number of interviews that came afterwards. She said that people might not understand, people might be angry with her decision, as people were online. But this is a very, very unique feat of DNFing a TT, not from a crash, but from mental fatigue. It's taken riders to do this kind of thing in the past. I remember Tom Dumoulin took a mental health break back in 2020 through 2021, and we've had riders leave the sport citing mental fatigue as well in the past. So it's nothing new, but for it to happen mid-race to Reusser, who was a favourite in the race, and for her to then continue on to the road race of the weekend, it's definitely cooked up quite the debate, particularly on Twitter, /X.
I don't know what even to make of this, because I would understand it if she didn't do the road race today, but she did the road race today, and she finished 4th. So was it just on the day? Clearly it's not debilitating where she's needing to just pull out a world champs, right? You know, she's still done it today. So was it just like a fleeting thing? Was it that she got told she was in 4th place and she mentally cracked from that? Because she is a favourite and she was like, I'm not first. What's going wrong? I guess I didn't have the biggest sympathy towards it, because I thought like it is hard. Absolutely, it's like the toughest sport in the world. We know this, but just sort of stopping and not finishing just seems a little bit poor form in my eyes. I know I'm going to get eaten alive for that in the comment section, but she's essentially denied others the ability to beat her, even that she is the favorite, and therefore beating her is a big deal. But instead of it being she's sixth place and people beat her, instead it's DNF, and we don't know how she was really doing on the day, if you see what I mean. So it kind of denied others the gratification of being able to beat such a champion. I don't know. It just seemed a little bit poor form for me, in my opinion. But that's just my one controversial take on it.
It did seem strange at the time. Like, the camera's cut and she pulled over onto the side of the road and just like sat there. Didn't even like get into the car straight away. And it was a bit perplexing. But at the same time, it's like, everybody has those days when you wake up and you just really can't be asked, You wake up and you think, wow, I really don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to university. I don't want to go to school. Some of us would call in sick. Some of us would miss a class. Believe me, I've missed a class. And
only one.
I've missed classes to be on live streams on the Cycling Day YouTube channel. I did it for you guys. I blame you. You're my sitting on the side of the road in the middle of a time trial. Anyways, so I do kind of get it. And like, there was a lot going on, like for the Tour de France FAM to happen, then to come straight into the World Road Race Championships. They had the mixed race TT. She crashed in that. Yes, they still won. And then coming into this race, I don't know, maybe she went around the course and she was like, man, I just don't like the course. I heard she was fourth, and it's just like, I'm a give up. I get that it's like your sort of irrational mindset at the time. Maybe she thought I was rational, but like, sometimes if you're playing maybe FIFA with a friend, I know it's very different playing like,
you're comparing FIFA to a world time trial title. Yeah. Okay,
but like, maybe if like you get like a player sent off in the first like 5 minutes, and you think, damn, yeah, I just want to restart the match, or I just want to quit the game, or like you score a lousy goal and like you're maybe 2-0 down in the first 20 minutes, and you think, what's the point of like wasting the next X amount of time of my life on something I'm not going to win and not really going to benefit from. I do get it, but it is
I get it as well. Yeah, if she, as you guys said, going into it, was everyone saying you're the favorite, and then to find out you're not even in the medals, you're having a bad day. Yeah, I don't begrudge her that at all. It's her race at the end of the day. If she feels like she's not there. But I see your point as well, Patrick. It's not. I'm not trying to send all the hate your way.
Yeah, but it just seems wrong. It's like, oh, I'm fourth, I'm a winner, and I'm not going to win, so I'm just going to pack up my bags and leave, take my ball home, because I'm not going to win. I don't know, like a metaphorical ball.
Wait, like, was she in cycle ball as well?
Switzerland are good at cycle ball.
Switzerland are pretty good at it.
I feel like cycle ball is going to be a reoccurring theme on this podcast now.
I hope not.
I don't
know. Sorry, mister, I bring up FIFA.
Yeah, basically, I think she should have continued.
Before we get into Rider of the Week, or Rider of the World Championships, more like, I thought this would be a good opportunity for us with the Vuelta a Espana not that far away to look at the favorites and kind of see where you kind of think they're all, well, the data we've had over the last few weeks since the Tour de France, etc., where you think they are. Obviously, we don't know what Jonas Vingegaard is doing. He's somewhere in Teed, we expect, or something. But has these few weeks changed your perception in terms of who's going to be the contenders in the Vuelta a Espana? Obviously, we've done a clip where we talked about Jonas Vingegaard, and big name, and potentially could be the first rider to do the Tour Vuelta since Froome. But Remco Evenepoel, we talked about him. We even had last week a clip that we were a bit worried about him since the road race. You've got Ayuso in there as well. You've got Roglic and Joao Almeida, who was at the long time trial. But has your perception changed the Vuelta a Espana podium this year?
I don't think Almeida is going to be on there. I mean, last week Patrick said that Ayuso was the number one for UAE, and I'm kind of buying into that now. I thought maybe Almeida had the off day last week, but he looked pretty poor in the TT. I know a one day TT is different to to a normal time trial, but he's a guy who's won the Portuguese championships and he's been up there on prologues at Grand Tours as well. So for him to be sort of so lackluster at that point, I'm just not feeling it. But then his performance in Poland was also pretty good, but he's won that race in the past. Evenepoel definitely has bounced back. We don't know what the Jumbo guys are doing. I know Roglic was at a camp in Tignes. I imagine, I'm not 100% sure right now, but I imagine Vingegaard has joined him at the altitude camp in the Alps to get ready for the Vuelta. Which other favorites do we even have? Geraint Thomas, he looked decent in the time trial, 10th place. That's all right. I just don't know if Thomas could win the Vuelta, particularly with this company.
Be a bit cheeky and already give a podium prediction.
Go for it. I mean, it doesn't count. It can be like an indicator, but your official one isn't this one.
Yeah.
So you have time to change.
I've had a change of heart. I think it'll be Jonas first, Evenepoel second, and Ayuso third. I don't think Roglic is going to podium because I think that Jonas and Jumbo are going to be like, we need to win this, and they're going to have to sacrifice one of them. And I think that's going to more likely to be Roglic, given that Jonas is Jonas, to be honest. And I think that you could see a Roglic being a bit like an Adam Yates sort of style, apart from not finishing on the podium, maybe like a fourth or fifth. And yeah, I just think like Evenepoel's looking super good. Whether he can kind of get the peak going again for the Vuelta, and although the lacking of TTKs, I think this is going to be, I think that he will, lose by, like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes probably to Jonas, and that'll obviously implicate upon everything that we've said about Evenepoel winning the Tour in the future. But yeah, that's kind of my provisional one. I'm not sure about G. I reckon that's like a top 5. He's just like a solid kind of like person to back, isn't he? He's just like, he will just do well. As long as he stays upright, he is just Mr. Consistent. He will do good. Yeah, the Ayuso Almeida thing. Ayuso is an interesting one because we saw him struggling at some stages of Tour de Suisse and like Romandy earlier this year. But then other stages he won. Hard one to predict, to be honest with Ayuso. But I have faith that a year on from last year's podium, I reckon he could repeat it again. But Mas isn't doing the Vuelta Burgos now in favour of just training for the Vuelta. So obviously he finished third last year? Second last year after Roglic crashed, yeah.
And he was second before as well.
Sasha Vlasov and Itebrooks, of course. Ever the threat. I think it's going to be a cracking Vuelta, honestly. I think it's got an absolutely star-studded list of riders. Dare I say it, rivals, if not beats, the Tour in terms of depth of quality. I reckon it's going to be a real good race.
Pogacar. That's what is in Ewan's head right now. He should be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like everybody else is there.
Imagine that team. Ayuso, Pogacar, Almeida. That's just like all-stars.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
But then like what you said about Ayuso having like the hot and cold kind of like races this year, that's like what Evenepoel used to do before last year's Vuelta, where he would like be so good on one stage, then lose 4 minutes the next stage, and those hot and cold performances. Maybe Ayuso's going to do the same and like bounce back here at the Vuelta and go for it. I still think Ayuso's too young maybe to win, but on the podium for sure. I do think Roglic will finish on the podium if he stays upright.
All riders on the podium.
Jonas, Ayuso, Roglic.
Oh, you're not including Evenepoel.
I feel like Evenepoel's just going to get like nay-nayed at this Vuelta. I feel like something's going to happen where like Jumbo are going to go ham, and he's going to be caught out. If you get what I mean.
It's that times.
I also think just Vingegaard's just so good.
Yeah, legit. He is. Especially on like stage 20. Those like continuous cat frees. Evenepoel could have a hard day if the proverbial poo hits the proverbial fan. Remco could have a proverbial meltdown.
But I think you guys are right though. We haven't really seen him other than that Tirreno, which whatever. But in a Grand Tour setting, we've never seen Remco go against Jonas or Pogacar. So this should be hopefully like not just fizzles out, and it actually is an interesting duel. It's not just Remco kind of disappears. But I don't think his team's that strong though. Jumbo does destroy Quickstep.
That's true, but I saw an interesting thing of, did you like Pogacar's team at the 2020 Tour when he won was so bad.
Wasn't Christoph in the team as well?
Yeah, there was like Christoph, Vergelagen, Polang, just Formolo, and just a load of people like you wouldn't have even expected that, I don't know, that they would have been able to support a Tour de France victory. And they did.
Fabio Aru as well. The fact that Aru went into that race as like co-leader with
Yeah,
Pogacar,
I remember
it's
seeing
just meme worthy.
UE's smoke and mirrors press release before that, and I was like, oh yeah, this Pogacar guy, yeah, he's not that good. He's just here to learn, but he won, and I was like, such lies, UE. I'm never believing one of your press releases ever again. Liars.
Fabio Aru. Great video on the Cycling Dane about him. But yeah, so Ewan, who do you think is going to win the Welter? Well, we've pretty much all of us have said Bingo. But who do you think is the two lowest steps of the podium?
Someone then Roglic.
Someone then Roglic.
I use like it's a natural progression to finish second.
When's the last Spanish winner? Is it Contador? It must be.
Yeah, Constable 2012. No, 2014.
They need another winner, so maybe Ayuso, maybe in a few years.
Yeah, but like France need a win at the Tour de France. It doesn't mean
Yeah,
that Valdez is
yeah,
going to gain
I mean,
6 minutes on Col de la
Lenny
Loz.
Martinez, that's the guy.
I mean,
We've been
you never
through
know.
this. We had a clip about this.
You never know when somebody crashes. Jonas could have
Yeah.
a bad day. You
Yeah,
don't. We've
that's
never
true.
seen him back. We've never seen him do a 12 welter. You don't know how he's going to react to it. You never know.
We've also never really seen Jonas get caught up in like a big proper crash.
Wait, hang on.
No, that's a
not
lie.
watch-
No, we have.
Yeah, exactly. He had multiple crashes and still
but
won the
like-
race.
I don't know. It's like Pogacar. It's like how long can this guy go on for without being in like a big major crash incident? And that happened this year.
Yeah.
Feels like I don't know, like every like big name rider has had like one major crash incident in their careers. Jonas hasn't had one yet.
I mean, Remco nearly died, so he trumps them all, I think.
Yeah, that's true. He went full bore.
I was so sure he was dead. I was really scared for him. And then our YouTube channel, I won't mention, put the video up straight away. And I was like, nice.
Yeah, have some class, people.
Yeah. But speaking of class, let's go to Rider of the World Championships. And I mean, there's plenty to choose.
There is.
Yeah. I don't even know how we're going to base it. Are we going to base it on like, because it feels like cruel, because really want to pick one rider, but he's only won one World Championships. We know there's so many other riders who've won multiple disciplines. So do we divide it up into this week and then the overall? I think that's fair. So you're this week and then overall.
Okay, that's fine. Well, there's only one rider that can be chosen for this week, and that is, of course, Tom Pidcock.
As soon as he took that Yorkshire flag, I was like, yep.
Yeah, honestly, that was such a good vibe. Yeah, it was a bit of a sketchy move, him finishing third place in that short track when he just annihilated that poor German, but he got 2 medals in 1 week, and yeah, that was just a pure vibe seeing him win yesterday. So Tom Pidcock's my rider of this week.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go for Victor Koretsky. Of France. He's a long-time favorite of mine. So maybe this is just favoritism from down the line. He was all okay, so in terms of like he does road and mountain biking, but his mountain biking has been poo over the past year, and he just suddenly arrived at the World Championships, got a silver medal in the short track, then came fourth in the cross country. He was angry. I think in terms of the entertainment value he gave us, he was like booing and like he did like the bras d'honneur. He was doing all these hand gestures coming over the line. He was not happy, and he was really angry with UCI and their whole decision around the event. And just in terms of him, like he's been so off the radar for a while, and for him to now be back on the radar, especially after sort of jumping onto the road last year, not getting great results apart from a stage win at the Alpecin Tour, then to have these couple days like of really high level racing, that's fantastic.
Yeah, okay. The one I'm going to go for is Kevin Quintaro of Colombia. I don't know if you guys know who he is. No, the men's world champion now in the Kieran event, and that Kieran was incredible. We've talked about Harry Lavarazen of the Netherlands. He's won this event 3 years in a row, but the Colombian was starting from the back, and then in the last lap, literally just came from behind and took everyone with great speed, even giving him enough time to celebrate. And I mean, Colombia and World Championships isn't exactly something that happens a lot. So I just thought that was a very good win. I checked, there's not really a history of, because I was thinking, is this the next Gaviria? But Kieran event and transitioning to the road is not, there's basically nothing. Teo Boss, that's the only guy you can really think of. Chris Hoy never did, Jason Kenny, etc., etc.
Physiology just isn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
Too built.
Yeah,
what a damn shame. You're just too big and muscly.
2,000 watts. Yeah, too many watts. Are you going to get over Cat 2? No. But yeah, nevertheless, who's your rider of this Super World Championships?
My rider of this World Championships is Lotte Kopecky for winning, as you and checks or somebody else. The fact that she won 3 world titles, including a really emphatic victory at the world timed road race today. That was just an incredible performance. She came in as the favorite, and she delivered. And despite the fact that she was really having to work really hard to try and kind of keep things under control, she marked moves, and then she made that one final attack over the top of Ludwig. And yeah, the fact that she's also on the track, which I just completely forgot about as well. She's just probably the best rider in women's cycling at this current moment.
Monster.
Literally.
Beating the Dutch team as well. That was absolutely stacked.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry for taking your pick, Ewan.
It's fine. I felt like it was a rite of passage, given how strong she's been.
Now you know how I feel when you took mine the other week.
Real. Okay, in that case, I'm going to go for someone who won on the road and on the mountain bike. I'm going to take someone who could have been Scott's pick, Albert Philipsen of Denmark. I know he's under 18 at the moment, but still winning a mountain bike and winning the Road World Championships within the matter of the same week. It's a really great performance. It's what Mathieu van der Poel wanted to do, and this little Dane got it. On top of his, he's also got a European title as well this year, and he's the national road champion and the national cyclocross champion of Denmark. Maybe he is the next Van der Poel.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm going to pick Mathieu van der Poel. Don't really need to explain it.
But he crashed out in the mountain bike.
Yeah, but he won. He won the world's road race, and he's the world cyclocross champion.
No, that's fair. I gave my rider of the week to a man who didn't even win a gold medal.
Also,
when there are like 100 gold medals on offer in this event.
Also, just quick side note before we sign off, but the fact that Alpecin have the elite men's champion, the under 23, and also Sam Gaze, who won the short track. Alpecin have 3 world champions. That is insane.
Ineos
I know you could say Ineos had Pauline
exactly.
Ferrand and Pidcock, but
and Ghana, they had Ghana as well. Individual pursuit.
That's true. That's
like
true. But Alpecin, crazy.
Yeah, true. Anyways, with that, that's basically it for our 29th episode here of the Echelon Cycling Podcast. Make sure to get involved in the comments. We love the comments, even sometimes when you're a bit too critical of us. And hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and of course, as always, we will see you next week.